Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SIO March webinar. I want to thank you all for joining us today. As a reminder, a recorded version of the webinar will be posted on the SIO YouTube channel for the public's viewing after the webinar. If you have any questions for our presenter today, please send them through the Q&A box at any time located in the toolbar. The presenter will answer all questions at the end of his presentation. You can also use the chat box to contact our organizer directly if you have any technical difficulties. I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Dr. Che, the Harry H.S. Fong Professor of Pharmacognosy in the Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences at the University of Illinois at Chicago. He also serves as the director of the World Health Organization Collaborating Center for Herbal Medicines at UIC. Prior to joining UIC as the first Norman R. Farnsworth Professor of Pharmacognosy in 2010, he was the director of the School of Chinese Medicine at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Trained as a pharmacognosist, Dr. Che has a broad background in the botany, chemistry, biology, and pharmacology of Chinese medicines and natural products. During the 40 years of his career as a researcher and educator, he focuses his research in plant chemistry and the biological activities of secondary metabolites. He is also knowledgeable about the authentication, quality assessment, and ethnomedical applications of medicinal plants. Over 320 scientific papers have been published to his credit, mostly addressing the following areas: discovering of novel substances or botanical preparations with potential pharmaceutical applications, establishment of quality assurance methodologies and standardization of plant-based preparations, and providing chemical and pharmacological evidence to support the modern use of traditional medicines. Thank you, Dr. Che, for joining us today. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. And good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you are. I'm glad to participate in this webinar to talk about a topic not only dear to me, but also of interest to all of you. So thank you all for attending this presentation. As we all know, there has been increasing interest in using integrative approach for the management of many health conditions, including cancers, and convincing results is now available to demonstrate benefits of combining the conventional treatment and some kinds of supportive therapies, such as botanical products, acupuncture, and others. And many users of these supportive therapies have testified the benefits, such as pain control, improvement of quality of life, and as well as reduction of chemotherapy-related side effects. The focus of today's talk is on botanical products. When a patient or a doctor considers to use botanical products, they often ask, are there any supplements that may help? Does this product or does this therapy work? Are there side effects from using it? So these questions actually boil down to the concerns about the effectiveness or efficacy and safety. Of course, we all want a therapy that is effective and safe. Then the question is, how can we safeguard effectiveness and safety? The fundamental issue is quality. Only good quality can ensure the therapy to be effective and safe for use. Now, what do we mean by quality of a product? Quality is defined by the sum of a set of characteristics, including identification of ingredients, purity, uniformity, potency, stability, and safety. For conventional drugs, as you know, quality is well defined and strictly controlled during the manufacturing processes, and they are regulated by laws. But for botanicals, it's a different story, mainly because their composition is complex and inconsistent. For this reason, we are facing many challenges when dealing with botanical quality. Now, from pharmaceutical viewpoint, in order to understand the challenges in quality control for botanicals, we must know how botanicals are different from conventional drugs. First, all pharmaceutical drugs have standardized chemical or generic names. But for botanicals, they can have many names and can cause a lot of confusions. Plant materials can be labeled by the common or commodity names, by their pharmaceutical names, or by their scientific names. As a result, the same plant can be known by different names, and you will see some examples later. Second, drugs are mostly obtained by chemical synthesis under well-controlled conditions, and they are pure compounds. Therefore, each drug is made up by a single molecular structure. In contrast, botanicals are either wild growing or cultivated in farms and then harvested from the field. They are made up by very complex substances. Therefore, each plant contains hundreds, if not thousands, of different substances. And many of the chemical ingredients are even unknown to us. For this reason, it is difficult to pinpoint the active ingredients of a plant. In most cases, it could be a combination of several substances that share the same effect. Chemical drugs are synthesized from stable and well-controlled starting materials during the synthetic process. However, the supply of plant materials can vary a lot. For example, the same species of plant can originate from different geographical areas, collected in different seasons, or grown under different growing and cultivating conditions. Consequently, there's a wide range of variability among the source materials. Now, for chemical drugs, their pharmacological effects and mechanism of action are often known. But for botanicals, the actions are mostly unclear and unproven. Complexity and variability of the chemical components make it difficult to establish and define exact pharmacological actions. And lastly, conventional drugs are approved by FDA, and they have to fulfill a set of stringent requirements in terms of quality, safety, and efficacy. For botanical supplements, they are regulated by a different set of law, which is the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. Therefore, that botanicals are not regulated and controlled in the same way as drugs, and their regulations are often less stringent because they are considered a special form of food, but not drug. Now, due to the unique characteristics of botanicals, we are facing many challenges in terms of quality control, and some of them are given here. Inconsistency of source materials, misidentification of the plant, substitution of related plants with related plants, adulteration with other substances, contamination, lack of regulatory standards, and false or unproven claims. And there are also some technical issues, such as lack of harmonized QA/QC standards in the industry, limitations in analytical methodologies, especially those for minor components, and instability of some ingredients. So what do I mean by inconsistency of the source material? Some plants, since plants grow under natural conditions, there are many factors that may contribute to the inconsistency, such as genetic variation, geographical variations, seasonal variation, as well as environmental variations. And apart from issues arising during the growing period, there are issues at the harvest and post-harvest stages that will also affect the quality of the source material, such as time of harvest, the drying process, and the pre-treatment conditions and the storage of the plant materials. In order to minimize the variations, good agricultural and collection practice, or GACP, has been introduced in many countries where medicinal plants are grown. GACP is a set of principles for farmers to strictly adhere to, with the aim of keeping the growing conditions as consistent as possible, so that the resulting plant material would not vary to a great extent. So the message I would like to bring out here is that the complexity and inconsistency in chemical composition of plant materials are contributing to many challenges for the production of quality products. Now, let us highlight some key aspects about botanical quality. When we think about botanical quality, there are at least three main issues to concern about. First, botanical identity. The question to ask is, what is it? Or is it what it is supposed to be when you are dealing with a botanical product? Now, in terms of identity, many different plants are used to make herbal supplements, and they should be properly identified. However, problems can arise since some plants may look similar, but they have very different effects. For example, black cohosh is an herbal supplement women take for symptoms of menopause. But there have been incidents in the US and Canada where consumers suffer liver damage after taking products that contain a different plant species with a similar name. I will show you more examples later. The second question to ask is, what does it contain? Or does it contain any active ingredients? Whether the product is of high or poor quality depends on whether it contains sufficient amount of active ingredients. Therefore, identification and quantification of the product's ingredients are important. The third question to ask is it free from impurities or contaminants? It is obvious that you don't want your product contain impurities or being contaminated. For any products, purity has to be assured. Now, let us take a closer look at the various quality issues and challenges. To answer the question, what is it? What shall we do? We need to confirm the identity of the source material. The process of identification is also known as authentication. The purpose is to make sure that the target plant has not been mistakenly or purposely substituted by something else. Now, to identify a plant, the first thing is to determine its name. This seems to be a trivial matter, but it is not. Unlike chemical drugs, where they have unique chemical and generic names, plants can be known by many different names. Here I show you the different ways to name a plant. For each plant species, it has a scientific name, which is the internationally accepted name of a plant. The scientific name is made up by the genus name and the species name, similar to our surname and given name. And this is the most formal and reliable nomenclature for plants. I take turmeric roots as an example here. Its scientific name is Curcuma longa, and it has a synonym, which is Curcuma domestica. Both names refers to the same plant species. Now, for those plants that are used for medicinal purposes, they have Latin pharmaceutical name. In this example, the pharmaceutical name for turmeric is Curcumae rhizoma. The suffix rhizoma refers to the underground stem part, which is the rhizome, that is used as medicine. In many cases, plants are identified by the vernacular or local names. And depending on the geographical origins or where the suppliers are located, the same plant species may have different local names. In this example, turmeric is known in different places as different local names. In India, in China, in Japan, in Indonesia, they all have different local names. And then for plants that are best known in the West, they may have their English common name. In this case, turmeric is also known as Indian saffron. Of course, it is best known as turmeric. So for these reasons, you must know what exactly the plant material is. And when you look for information in the literature, please make sure you cover as many keywords as possible so that you will get all information given under various names of the same plant. Now, can you believe botanical nomenclature matters? It actually does. Let's take ginseng as an example. You may read about ginseng in many scientific papers or magazines, and once in a while, you may hear news about ginseng. But by saying ginseng alone does not mean much. There are several plant species that are commonly known as ginseng: Korean or Chinese or Oriental ginseng, American ginseng, Siberian ginseng, Indian ginseng. But these ginseng plants actually are belonging to different plant species, as shown here. They are different plants. They are not the same plant, okay? Now, another example is cinnamon. If you are taking a cinnamon supplement, do you know whether it is Ceylon or the true cinnamon? Or is it a Chinese or cassia cinnamon? Or would it be Vietnamese or Saigon cinnamon or Indonesian cinnamon? As a matter of fact, all these different cinnamons coming from different regions belongs to different plant species. Again, they are not the same plant. Now, a more extreme case is the misuse of Aristolocia plant for Stephania plant. The story is like this. In the 80s, a Chinese herbal formula became popular in Belgium among some ladies who use it for weight control. Some years later, several of those ladies developed kidney problems and cancer, with some fatal cases. The toxicity of the herbal formula was finally traced down to the fact that a plant called Aristolocia was used and mistakenly used to make the formula instead of Stephania tetrandra. It happens that Aristolocia plant contains toxic ingredients called aristolochic acid and some other similar compounds, and they are all toxic, particularly to the kidney. The reason of such a negligence was then found to be related to the local names of these two plants. Stephania tetrandra is known in Chinese as fangqi or Han fangqi, whereas Aristolocia fangqi is known as Guang fangqi. And apparently, some workers in the factory were confused by the subtle difference in the local names, and Aristolocia was mistakenly used to fill the formula. And so therefore, in our research, the very first task to do is brand authentication. Brand authentication or identification can be accomplished by using botanical examinations, such as examining the external appearance, the microscopic views of the cut surface, and the powders to look for characteristic features. Brand authentication can also be achieved by analyzing the chemical composition. And the gold standard now is the HPLC profiling. Lastly, brand authentication can be done by molecular approach, that is the DNA analysis. And proper identification is often accomplished by using a combination of these methods. Now, after answering the question, what it is, we then ask the second question, what does it contain? Brand materials can be standardized by defining the content level of selected chemical ingredients. And by doing so, the contents of certain ingredients of the preparation can be guaranteed up to a certain concentration level. For example, St. John's wort is standardized against hypericin or hyperforin. Ginkgo is standardized against gingolides and flavones. Ginseng is standardized against ginsenosides, whereas milk thistle is standardized against silymarin. And in current practice, each manufacturer may choose to use different markers for standardization, and it is up to them to specify how much of the marker they produce would contain. And at this time, there is no consensus within the industry, nor any regulatory control by the FDA as far as the choice of markers and their content limits are concerned. Then clearly, this is an area open to challenges, and it requires much more research. The third question to answer is whether the preparation contains any impurities or contaminants. In order to keep the products as pure as possible, it is important to impose contaminant control and to make sure a product consistently meets quality standards, not only for identity and composition, but also for contaminant limits. And for clinicians and end users, it is important to obtain proof of purity of the product. Now, there are many kinds of impurities and contaminants. The first group of impurities are unwanted, I call it unwanted brand substances. In many cases, the source material may be substituted by or mixed with a similar brand of lower quality or weaker effect. And the worst scenario is, of course, the contamination by toxic brands. Here I show you a couple of examples. There have been reports that Pentago, harvested from the field, was contaminated by digitalis, which grows in the same field. As you know, digitalis is toxic to the heart. Such accidental cases would present big risk when the contaminated Pentago is used to produce a product, of course. Now, another example is star anise. Star anise is used both as a medicine and a spice. The Chinese species, Elysium verum, is the official species for use. But in Japan, there is a similar plant, Elysium anisetum, and this Japanese species produces star anise fruits with very similar appearance and odors like the Chinese star anise. But there have been reports that when Chinese star anise is contaminated by the Japanese species, it would end up in neurotoxicity. The reason is because the Japanese species contains a toxic compound called anisotine. So when this compound contaminates the non-toxic species of Elysium vernum, then it will cause problems. Now, another example of substitution is due to economic and supply reasons. Black cohosh, Atia racemosa, is native to the eastern mountain area of US. And it is widely used as a supplement for menstrual cramps and menopausal symptoms. In recent years, due to the shortage of supply, black cohosh is also imported. However, the plant species growing in other countries are not Actia racemosa. They are related species such as Atia heracrifolia, Atia dorhurica, Atia simicifilga. And strictly speaking, these foreign species are not black cohosh, but they are so as black cohosh, and their safety and effectiveness have not been confirmed. As I mentioned before, some incidents of liver toxicity were noted after consuming some of these substituted species. The second group of impurities or contaminants are the microbial organisms and their toxic metabolites. In some cases, plant materials could be contaminated by pathogenic bacteria or molds, and in particular, consumption of preparations contaminated by toxins such as aflatoxin and endotoxins would pose health risk. As you know, aflatoxin will cause liver damage and cancer. Chemical constitutes another type of impurities. A big concern is contamination by toxic heavy metals such as lead, arsenate, cadmium, and mercury. They may get into the plant from contaminated soils or water. And residual pesticides and other agricultural chemicals are also present in some plant materials due to substandard cultivation practices. Another issue of big concern for contamination is illegal adulteration of drugs. Some of the preparations could be adulterated by chemical compounds, in many cases purposely, to boost up the effectiveness of the botanical products. And in most cases, the added substances are undeclared, and they can only be detected by performing chemical analysis. There are other impurities, such as dirt, sands, soil, that could come from the harvested plant materials. And in good practice, the plant materials have to be thoroughly cleaned before use. Now, one more important issue to ensure product quality is the manufacturing process. To minimize variations in the final botanical products, standardization of procedures should cover the entire process from cultivation to medicinal to clinical applications of the medicinal products. It should start from the sourcing of high quality raw material and development of criteria for identification of the constituents and impurities. Now, we all know the gold standard for quality assurance during the production process is GMP, good manufacturing practice. So the question to ask is whether the product is in concern is produced by GMP. And apart from GMP, there are other good practices standards for the pharmaceutical and food industry. All these good practices are important during the various stages, such as during the cultivation and collection stage, the GACP, during the processing of the herbal material, the GHPP, and the sourcing, GSP, and then at the analytical work in the laboratory, GLP, and the clinical practice, GCP. And so in this respect, the WHO has published several documents to serve as guidelines for improving botanical quality. And our group has been involved in establishing some of these guidelines. Now, so the WHO has a GACP standard, they have GHPP recommendation, and then they have GMP for herbal medicines. And they also publish other guidelines concerning how to ensure herbal qualities. So to conclude, I hope you are convinced that quality is a key to ensure effectiveness and safety of botanical source materials and products. And for clinicians and consumers of botanicals, you need to better understand the quality of the substances you're using so that you can get out the benefits with minimal risk. I think this is all I want to talk about today. So thank you all for your attention. And if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer or to have any discussion with you all. Thank you. Back to you, Morgan.
Thank you, Dr. Che, for an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
I just posted in the chat for anybody that has any questions. So please post them in the Q&A. Let's see if we get any.
Let's see if I can read anything. No, I haven't seen any yet.
Let's see. We have. Let's see. Oh, we have one. Okay, what other sources of information do you recommend clinicians and patient use in addition to the WHO material?
Yeah, well, they are many sources where you can get such information. The WHO monographs or the WHO guidelines are only part of it, of the sources that you can find information, of course. I think depend on what you're looking for. Say for GMP and GCP or GLP, of course, it's well used throughout the industry. But for GACP, for agricultural and collection practices, there are a couple of GACP published by some main producing countries of medicinal plants. I think there is one from China and there is one from India, as far as I can remember now. So GACP is not as commonly known, of course, as GMP or GLP or GCP. And then for safety, of course, or contamination, there are many articles and books available for reference. And so if you want, is it Laura? Yeah. If you need any particular reference or you want more specific information, then I'll be happy to communicate with you and provide you with more specific information that may interest you.
Very nice. Thank you, Dr. Chai.
Thank you.
Good. Oh, I'm following up on that. Just a reminder that with the post-webinar email, we will send a reminder for links to the YouTube recording and then some contact information for the attendees.
Can I give the contact information here, Morgan?
Sure. If
Okay.
you would like to, sure.
Okay. Okay. So my email is CHECT at uic.edu. CHECT at uic.edu.
Thank you. I also just posted it in the chat.
Oh, great. Thank you.
We have Wendy said, a wonderful talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, any other listeners, if you're interested in talking to me, you're more than welcome to drop me an email anytime.
Okay, we have another one from Zach. How would you explain to someone the value of the natural product as opposed to a synthetic creation with the same active ingredients? There seems to be a yet inexplicable value in something that has arisen naturally over millennia versus something created in the finite context of a lab.
I think a major difference between a chemical drug and a natural preparation is that in natural preparation, it contains more than one ingredient. Although this creates a lot of problems, of course, as I told you, the complexity of the composition will create a lot of quality issues and even safety or effectiveness issues. But at the same time, my belief is that within the plant, say like a plant extract or preparation, there may be more than one compound which are working synergistically together, okay, to give you the effectiveness. So in that sense, I think well, for sure, if you have a synthetic drug, containing a single compound, and you have the same trend known to contain the same compound, but and then in terms of the dosage, in terms of the amount of that particular compound one is taking in, of course, it's much less amount when you take in an extract or a preparation. But at the same time, I believe some other substances contained within that trend material also work together. Okay. Well, if you believe in the Chinese philosophy of healing, of Chinese medicine philosophy, then different components within the preparation will work properly at the different sites in your body to help defeat the disease or to give you a better strength at the same time. And that is one beauty, I would say, of using natural products. But of course, I have to also to emphasize that the action of natural or botanical preparation is often weaker, I would say, weaker than synthetic drugs. And that may be a good sign or a bad sign, because sometimes you don't really want too strong the action of a drug, and therefore in most cases for taking herbal products, a person need to use it for over a longer period of time, and hopefully with less side effects.
Right. Thank you. Looks like we have another question. How come there is still not Herbdrug interaction database available for clinicians? What are some limitation preventions from happening?
Herbdrug interaction?
Yes.
Okay. Just because there are not too many research work, I think. There are some work going on at this time, particularly with some best known or very well known herbal products like ginseng so they are research on Herbdrug interaction, but not for everything. And Herbdrug interaction is, the studies mostly are limited to certain drugs that are commonly used for the same disease. Okay, there are some databases available, and again, if you're interested, I can give you some information on those databases. But as you can see, they are more limited to certain few herbs at this time.
Do you know why they're limited?
Which they are not studied. Yeah. They're just not studied, and probably there are some limitations on the resources, I would say, to study those many others.
Yeah. Okay. Those are the two questions we had in the Q&A. Zach said he wholeheartedly agrees and appreciates your articulate insight to the previous question.
Thank you.
All righty, we'll give it a few more minutes for any attendees to post any questions, remaining questions into the chat before we sign off. Let me look, see any more. I see Robert has raised his hand. Robert, you can ask a question in the chat or the Q&A if you can. Or I can see if I can. Yes, there we go. I know, Dr. Che, you and I, before we got on here, were talking about how someone mentioned how this was a timely matter to present this webinar. Do you feel that that's true and applicable right now?
Oh, sure. I think as far as I understand, more and more people are interested in taking herbal supplements, either for just improving the general health or for taking care of some of the chronic or mild diseases. And of course, then in some cases, cancer patients also some of them would be interested in taking herbal products, just like I show you in the first slide, in order to reduce some of the chemotherapy-related side effects or just improving the general health. And then some others, healthy persons, they also like to take herbal products. That's like taking vitamins, right? And so I think because of this surge in interest from the general public and the quality issues, the safety issues are becoming more and more apparent to the pharmaceutical, biomedical, medical communities. And as far as I know, that some of the clinicians are also interested in testing or using supplements for their patients, and of course, then when using these supplements for your patients, then you have to be very careful to make sure that the preparation you use are of good quality and safe. Yeah. So I think this is the time that we all have to pay more attention to the quality and then safety of the herbal preparations.
Yes. Oh, I see. Follow-up question. How important is it to know the procedures in growing and harvesting of the particular farmer? Also, after put it in a tablet or capsule, if stored correctly, in general, how long is the product viable?
Okay. Of course, from a quality assurance point of view, it's very important to know how the farmers grow and harvest the plants. But in reality, you may or may not be able to obtain the first-hand information. And so I think in most cases, as end users, we have to rely on information provided by the manufacturer or the supplier. And so what I just try to say is that you or we have to try our best to get all the information as much as possible. Okay, I think this is all we can do practically. We cannot go to the farms or the field to watch to see exactly what happens there. And the other question is of the product life. Traditionally, it's interesting. Traditionally, herbal materials have no lifespan. I mean, there's no limits on how long it can be stored. But now I think the practice is to estimate. I think as far as I'm concerned, I really don't know how the period of time, how long the period of time is determined by the manufacturer. I don't know. What I think is, as long as the materials is stored in a dry and protected from extensive exposure to light and moisture, and to prevent insect infestation, then a couple of years would be okay. As this just from my gut feeling. I really cannot answer this question because I really don't know how the time period is determined by the manufacturer.
Yeah, that one's tricky.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's different for each product as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we are almost out of time and I don't see any more questions. So I'll take this time now, Dr. Che, to say thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And a reminder that we will be posting this on the YouTube channel and on social media. So please subscribe and follow Integrative Onc on all platforms. Oh, it looks like we do have another question really quickly. Why do we continue to make such a fuss over food grade herbs?
Sorry, what is it? What is it now?
This one's in the chat.
Oh, food grade. Oh, I think just the herbs which are good for consumption as food have to be more. We have to be more careful about that because as a food, one is supposed to be able to consume it all the time with no limits of how long you should use it or how much you should take it. And so for those materials, and they should be controlled, or they should receive more attention about the safety of long-term use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That one's also a tricky one.
Yeah.
All righty. I think that's all we have for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you again, Dr. Che. We hope to see you
Thank
again
you.
soon.
Yeah, I thank all of you for attending. And also, as I said, I look forward to receiving emails from you if you like to keep talking with me.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week.
Thank you. And the same to all of you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.